Welcome back to the Longevity Program, a program designed to live longer, stronger. This week, I'm going to be talking about the importance of benchmarking for myself. Benchmarking is such a critical part for me of this longevity program experience. Why? Because I truly believe that what gets measured gets done. If you don't measure something, you genuinely will not have the best understanding of what it is that you're either trying to do or trying to achieve. And so in this case, for the longevity program, if I don't measure a number of statistics about myself, then there is no way that I can objectively, as well as subjectively with things like journaling and so on, but there is no way that I can objectively understand whether or not these things that I'm doing are impacting my body and how hopefully my mind interacts with my body. And that's a more challenging one to get, and that's why I'm going to be putting in the journaling as well to capture what's going on with my mind. But I'm definitely going to be objectively measuring my body. So this week, I'm going to be doing a number of tests, and these are the first set of tests, and I'll be doing them throughout the year. So I'll be doing an extensive blood test. I'll be doing what's called a Dexabodyscan. I weigh myself and I do my journaling. So I must admit there are some things in this week that that I don't exactly like, and I'll talk a little bit about that later in this post. But yeah, so this week, big week, testing week. The importance of testing is absolutely critical, and I don't believe that without testing, a real objective and true benchmark way forward can be obtained. So, testing week, here we go. Well, another day, another test. Today I'm heading in for what's called a DEXA scan. It's a bone and muscle density as well as fat test that I'll be doing both now and through the middle of the year and at the end of the year to, in a way, scientifically test how is this whole program that I'm going through going to affect my body. So really looking forward to it, really looking forward to seeing what the results are, and then checking in 6 months' time and seeing whether or not we move the dial. Here we are, the end of the week, another weekend, and I have in my hot little hands the results of some of that testing that I was talking about. So I've got the DEXA results, and I also have my blood test results. And the DEXA, just out of interest, looks, it's like a coloured, if you've never seen one, it's a coloured report. It goes over a couple of pages, and it goes through a whole lot of, you can probably see there's a whole lot of busy statistics in there, and so it's pretty involved, and it's looking at a couple of key things. So it's looking at your lean muscle mass, your fat, and therefore your fat percentage on lean muscle mass, and it's also looking at your bone density. In fact, I believe DEXA was originally created to look at bone density, and then they worked out, hey, wait a minute, this can also have a look at and can be the gold standard on working out your fat and your muscle as well as your bone density. So I've done one of these a couple of years ago, and when I did that one a couple of years ago, I was in some heavy training in CrossFit at that time, and so it's really interesting to see. Okay, well in 2019 I did some DEXA testing, and I've done some in now at the start of 2023. So what has happened in those intervening periods? Because at that time I felt that I was in pretty good shape. So if I'm going to hit 50 in the best shape of my life, well, how was I when I felt in pretty good shape in 2019? And it's really quite interesting, and I sort of giggle a little bit because I talked about getting the good, the bad, and the ugly. Well, there's some good, there's some bad, and dare I say, for me, potentially some ugly. So let's talk to some of the key stats. I'm going to post these stats on the wall for you. I'm going to let you know about them. And then we're going to see if we can move the dial, because that's what this is all about. The important thing is not to look at it. To be fair, the important thing is not to look at it and think to myself, oh, that's really awesome, or oh, that's really bad, or oh, whatever it is that I interpret. But rather, for me, it's looking at it going, okay, objectively, where am I sitting right now, and how am I going to move that dial over the year? So I'm going to say from the get-go, and maybe I'm just prefacing some of the stats that I'm going to be talking to you about, but I'm going to say a bit of self-love is super important. Anyway, so DEXA body results. what have we got? We've got total fat percentage, and so that's the fat mass versus the lean mass in my body. And in 2019, that was at 9.7%, and that's a pretty good result. But in 2023, I'm at 15.4%. So just for those of you who are mathematicians, I'm going to do the quick calculation for you. It's 59% increase on 2019 in terms of my total fat percentage. Ouch. So to be fair, and if I showed you this little, I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's a little graph there, and the graph has sort of the upper ratio for Australian males aged 49, and then the lower sort of ratio of Australian males 49, and then the sort of the mean, so most males, and I'm below all of them. So not bad, but at the same time, certainly not what I was in 2019. So that's interesting. And once again, objectively, okay, I know where I stand now, and if I want to be in the best shape of my life, I've got some work to do. I've got a dial to move. The next one is weight. Now, interestingly, not surprisingly, my weight is down. So I'm definitely not as big, and I deliberately am doing some work, which means that I'm not bulking up as I was. And at that time, for example, I was taking a supplement called creatine, which was also helping me bulk up. That's a naturally occurring supplement that is one of the proven ones that can really help you bulk up. Anyway, my weight is down. So 87.7 is my weight in 2023 versus at that time 89.4. So that's down 2%. So my total fat is up 59% and my weight is down 2%. So there are some things that I need to work on. Okay, my waist, what's called my android or my waist area, and I won't go through all the details, just give you some key stats. So my waist area fat was up 137%. I think I enjoyed Christmas too much. My gynoid, so my hips, the first part of my quads and my glutes, that was up 93%. And then in the DEXA scan, they use what they call an AG ratio, so your adenoid versus your gynoid ratio, and that's a determinant on how you're traveling as well. That was up 93% for me at 8.83. Then it goes through things like your fat in grams, your lean mass in grams, your bone mineral content. So my bone mineral content was down 9% on 2019 at 3,261 grams, and my fat was up 62% at 13,518 grams versus in 2019 8,326 grams. So there you go. I'm sharing the good, the bad, and the ugly, and that's just some key stats that I now know about myself, and I'm going to be checking in again on them in June. So 6 months' time. That's going to be super interesting, and I definitely want to move the dial on some of those things. Certainly, if I want to feel that I'm in the best shape of my life coming into 50.
Well, here I am. I am just about to head into my first blood test, which is an extensive blood test looking at a whole bunch of stuff. And I must admit, I am a little nervous. I have this, it's not really a fear, it's just a dislike of needles. And I know what it is. That was when I was a kid, and my dad, who is a now retired surgeon, decided when we were going on a trip to China that he would do the kids. He decided, I'm not going to use a nurse, I'm going to do all of the kids' shots. And he did my sister first. And when he did my sister, he completely botched it. And I was there watching, and I ran for the hills. I hate needles, actually, when I think about it, but I've got five vials of blood that are going to be taken. A needle's going to stay in my arm for a little while. We can't shoot in there. That's against medical board practices. That's okay. But yeah, this is it. We are going for, I can't believe it. Yep. Blood test number 1.
The next report I've got, and it's a multi-page report and heaps of stats, and I won't go into all of them, but this is the blood test result that I did, and it went into a whole lot of factors, and I thought I'd just pull out some of the key factors that I found super interesting. So the first one was looking at my vitamin B12. Now, on a plant-based diet, your vitamin B12 can get knocked around. I do take vitamin B12 supplements. And that has certainly helped here. So my vitamin B12, which my doctor, and I took some notes as my doctor took me through the results, and he said, look, that is essential for DNA synthesis. So that was well within range, 325 PMO L per litre, and the range there that they want to see when it's 301 versus 740. So great, the supplements are certainly working. The next one was total cholesterol, and this one was interesting. Now my cholesterol was 4.1 total, and the range is 3.9 to 5.2, so within range, and HDL cholesterol was 1.7, and the range is 1 to 2. Now, my doctor said the ideal for total cholesterol is below 4 in total. So I was 4.1 and below 2 in LDL. Now, I didn't mention LDL, which is the bad cholesterol. Now, my LDL was 2.1. So I'm slightly above what my doctor said would be the ideal range for cholesterol and LDL, total cholesterol and LDL cholesterol. It'll be really interesting as I go through the longevity program to see how my cholesterol changes, if at all, and goes into hopefully those ideal ranges that my doctor talked about. Really interestingly in my blood test, and this is a bit of a wake-up call for me, and maybe my doctor said maybe you just went a little bit hard at Christmas, I don't know, and we'll find out. But my serum plasma glucose, so my blood glucose levels, were 5.6 millimolar per litre. Now, my doctor said, hey, this is high. And that, he said, look, it's not diabetes. Above 7 roughly is going into the diabetes area. He said, but this could be pre-diabetes. So at 5.6, if this was on a sustained reading, then this is an area of a watch out, of a red flag. And so that was a bit of a take back for me, because I didn't think that I ate that much sugar. Now remember, in the longevity program, I'm getting rid of refined sugar. So refined sugar is going, and I'm really hoping to see this one come down below, I'm guessing 5. So that was interesting in a way that was a red flag. Vitamin D, which I had struggled with about 6 months ago, was actually bang on. So it was 151, and that allows calcium, vitamin D. Why do I measure that? That allows calcium to be absorbed in the kidneys, and there are a number of key functions that vitamin D looks after for you. And I was low in the testing that I did about 6 months ago. I jumped onto some vitamin D supplements. I looked to get out in the sunshine in a safe way, using an app called Sunbeam that my dietitian got me onto, and that's a really great app. It tells you how long you can be out in the sun at the time of day to get the safe amount of vitamin D without putting yourself at risk. So vitamin D is good, excellent. Serum iron is looking good, so I'm not low in iron, which might be a problem with plant-based eating if I'm not careful. So iron is great. Cortisol at 436 was normal. So that cortisol is, for those of you who don't know what cortisol is, that's the stress hormone. So it was good to see that is normal. It also contributes to circadian rhythms, apparently, so my doctor says. So that was an interesting learning for me. And then finally, I think there's one last one that I'll share before I wrap it up, and that was, actually no, there are two. So the first one is my total testosterone was 24.2 on a range of 8.3 to 29. So my testosterone seems to be fairly high, and therefore not going down with age, which is great. And then finally, creatine kinase. Now, this one for me was elevated, and in previous blood tests it was also elevated. Now, it can be an indication of heart attack. It can be an issue with statins, and my doctor said also possibly muscular dystrophy. So in and of itself and individually, that might be cause for concern. But then my doctor went through all the other statistics in the blood test, and there are a whole lot of cross-references, and he said, look, and I'll paraphrase what he said. He said, basically, look, this might just be your weird area. Don't know why, but you just seem to be high, but I'm not worried about it given everything else that I can see. Therefore, and that's probably a good segue to a really important thing, and that is, this is a whole lot of testing for me. It's a whole lot of interaction and understanding for me to get benchmarks on myself. I'm using health professionals to provide me with the key statistics, and Of course, I would say to anyone who's watching along and wondering whether or not you want to do your own version of a longevity program, or in fact just understand your body a bit better, please, please, please use a accredited health professional. They are awesome. They give you really great information. And every time I catch up with my doctor, I learn heaps. And for me, I believe I'm proactively looking at areas that might be of concern. So if I go through this blood testing, not just for benchmarking, it could, and I hope it doesn't, but it could proactively tell me if I have an issue that I can deal with. And I tell you what, I would rather deal with an issue sooner before it becomes a bigger issue than later when it becomes a big issue and then suddenly I've got to really have some strong intervention to deal with it. There we go. That's the stats. That's the first check-in on benchmarking. It's been really helpful for me. I now know what it is that I'm looking at, what it is I'm going to be shooting for to achieve and move the dial. And for me, this is all about being able to live long, live strong. Until next time.